Hey everyone, PushingUpRoses here, and today I'm starting this video with a bit of sad news, which I am sure many of you have already heard, but in case you didn't, Angela Lansbury, the wonderful J.B. Fletcher herself, passed away on October 11th. This came as devastating news for me as I started my show that time on Murder, She Wrote due to my love of her and her versatile acting career. These videos have helped me through some pretty turbulent times, and I love that so many people watch and enjoy them. Perhaps in the future I'll write a tribute to Lansbury's long and varied career, but today we're carrying on with another episode called Fire Burn Cauldron Bubble. This was going to be my Halloween video, but as you can see, I missed that deadline completely, instead releasing a video on Stephen King's Sleepwalkers.
I like rocks.
This is a very fun, spooky episode, but I've mostly avoided covering it because, to be frank, I didn't want to look at Bill Maher's face for 48 minutes. But I bit the bullet because this episode is filled with witchy things. Oh? You know, like candles, plants, questionable haircuts, also Satan.
Oh, the most evil of the demon spirits.
As we begin our episode, we see a young pilgrim beginning some kind of ritual. You'd think she'd be in the woods or something for some privacy, but nah, she's in front of some woman's house. Seth drives up on a house call for a woman named Agnes, and I bet he's complaining about something right now.
Come on, Agnes, I've got all day.
This woman starts having her own personal poetry jam.
Oh, hear me, great Beelzebub and Neveros and Flority.
Seth goes to investigate. That was the loudest stick I have ever heard. Is it made of glass? It's so loud it alerts our witchy friend.
Stop!
In the name of love. Seth bursts through Jessica Fletcher's door, telling her he saw somebody chanting and talking about her own murder, and the woman visiting Jess suddenly exclaims,
Patience Terhune!
Patience was believed to be a witch and was burned at the stake 300 years ago.
I saw what I saw.
Are you sure? Because you're not wearing your glasses. The next day, Sheriff Metzger gets word that newspapers and reporters are asking about Patience Terhune. Turns out this woman is a huge gossip. He then shows her what his team picked up at what is affectionately called the witch's stump.
This candle appears to be crudely made.
Jess is a tough art critic. Meet Mildred and her fiancé Adam. Mildred is one of Jess's bazillion friends and a relative of Patience Terhune. Never cut your own bangs, folks. Is that a deconstructed pocket square? Since the sighting at the witch's stump, people have been calling and bothering her.
Tell me about these calls. Are they nasty?
Yeah, how nasty were they? Mildred tells Jess her husband is furious at all the calls and wants to move out of Cabot Cove after their wedding. She also says her uncle is leaving her a little apple farm after he dies, so they won't need financial help. Bill Maher alert. Mildred's author friend, Gordon, played by Roddy McDowall, pops in with his media manager, Rick Rivers. Apparently, Mildred had helped him with research for his previous book, which was about Patience Terhune. He says he is now there to cover the reappearance of her ghost.
I wish you would have called me. I could have saved you a trip.
Why is that funny? Gordon proceeds to be an absolute dick waffle to Jessica before heading to his hotel. Good God, this room is hideous, much like Bill Maher's acting. Gordon is upset that there isn't any press, and Rick yells at him for botching his introduction with the famous Jessica Fletcher.
Maybe you should start boogieing to something besides your own voice for a change.
The irony of that sentence coming from Bill Maher is not lost on me. Also, I haven't seen such an amazing Roddy McDowall performance since Laser Blast.
I am puzzled.
Also, in case you didn't know, Ron Masick, Sheriff Metzger, is also in Laser Blast, as a sheriff even. Aw, what a beautiful reunion. Meanwhile, a new suspicious character is introduced.
Well, I hope you'll be staying for a while.
I assume you're beautiful under there. Jess asks if the Terhune women were actually involved in witchcraft, implying that Gordon may have made it up for his last book. Mildred shows her the book he had for reference.
The Book of Secrets by Albertus Magnus.
Now, I know this sounds like some kind of weird Discworld character, but Albertus Magnus was a real person, and he was considered an alchemist, though I don't believe this book is authentic, even in the episode. You're telling me this damage-free looking book is 400 years old?
Published in London in 1560. Been in the family forever.
Sure, Jan.
As Jess, Seth, Mildred, and Adam are getting ready for a charity dinner, somebody shows up at the door claiming to be Mildred's sister.
I'm your sister, Irene.
Come on, Irene. Seth looks at her in disbelief and says,
That's patience.
Through some very obvious exposition, we're told that Irene has been estranged from the family. Now she is back wearing a fabulous fisherman's sweater and inquiring about a witch in the family. How coincidental that she would show up now. Time for the charity dinner. Stephen King? The priest questions Seth about seeing patients, to which he responds that he doesn't believe it's her, but someone who is a
Sure as hell 100% dead ringer for her.
dead ringer. Get it? Look at that pig in a blanket. It's just a giant hot dog in the tiniest crescent roll. Later that night, Mildred witnesses Irene sleepwalking into her room, carrying a candle and some flowers. She takes them and does some research, finding out that it is bloodroot.
They're used for casting evil spells.
Wow, that sounds serious. So serious that I wanted to look it up. Turns out, for those who believe in modern magic, bloodroot is actually considered a hex breaker and something that protects, so couldn't be more wrong, Mildred. It was also used as a red dye, so you know, the evil spell of dyeing yarn. Gordon wants to see evidence from the witch's stump for his so-called research and attempts to apologize to Jess for treating her like garbage the day before.
I simply had no idea that you were somebody.
Here in Cabot Cove, it's quite permissible to be polite to nobodies.
Yes, hello, I'd like to report a murder. Jess asked Metzger to check on Irene's flight information to Cabot Cove, and it all checks out, though she's suspicious about her identity. Gordon finds an interesting etching on a broken clay pot that was found at the witch's stump.
It represents Nebrius.
Nebrius is a marquis who commands 19 legions of demons. Oh, so he's like a manager with a lot of employees under him. Good for him. I bet his mother's very proud. The priest of the town hires a TV exorcist to be all dramatic. I don't know what he's doing. There's nothing to excise here. Nothing bad has even happened to the town. Someone takes a picture and he, Dr. Overman, is furious that somebody has interrupted him.
The mood is broken.
Oh, I didn't know exorcisms worked on mood. Would playing some Barry White help? Jess stands by Irene and escorts her away from the crowd, who begins to blame her for bringing evil spirits into the town. Jonas, the person who met her at the bus stop, has been cozying up to her. He says that Cabot Cove reminds her of the town she's been dreaming about.
It's amazing. Buildings, sometimes a whole street.
Yep. Sure does sound like a town. Gordon is freaking out that the town still hasn't gotten any press, meaning his book isn't selling. I like how he can act with his eyes only. Rick gets what sounds to be very disappointing news.
She chickened out on us.
Back at the Fletcher place, Jess confirms an important detail.
That Phyllis Grant, the travel agency?
No, it's Phyllis Diller. Jess tells Seth that Agnes Finney, the woman Seth thought he was making a house call for in the beginning of the episode, has been on vacation, and it was not her who asked for Seth, meaning that this was a setup.
If the ghost wanted to be seen, why did she grant the privilege exclusively to me?
Well, it's possible there was someone else.
What? It's possible that it's not a ghost? Speaking of ghosts, people are saying they saw Patience Terhune at an old barn. As Sheriff Metzger gets to the scene, we see somebody dressed as her go into the barn. It is revealed that the ghost is just Rick, dressed in pilgrim clothes. He sets the barn on fire, which causes the townspeople to go into hysterics. Rick brings a reporter to the crime scene, but he's upset because there's no corpse.
Charlie, there's no corpse because she was a ghost.
Duh! Gasoline is found at the crime scene, but no bodies. Jess suggests they look in the root cellar. So this woman's dead? Poor Irene. The coroner's report shows she was dead for hours before the fire, and Jess is now certain that Irene and the woman Seth saw earlier are the same person. They find small traces of blue paint on her body. The town has now taken on a mob mentality, completely beguiled at this idea that the ghost of Patience Terhune has come back to seek revenge in the form of black magic, further enabled by the scam artist minister. Poor Jonas is heartbroken, even though he's only known her for 24 hours. Though he's barely keeping it together, he gives Jess a great hint. He says that he and Irene were supposed to spend more time together, but she felt tired from jet lag, so he ended up bringing her back to Mildred's. A smug Metzger and Seth decide that Dr. Overman is the killer because he's been running an exorcism scam, even though they have literally no evidence that he is a murderer.
What's the matter with your neck?
It's aching from listening to all these men.
It couldn't possibly have been Dr. Overman.
Oh, okay. Jess explains that Dr. Overman has a solid alibi, something you'd think Metzger would have figured out if he had done any investigating at all. Jess says Irene lied about having jet lag because she traveled from west to east. She believes she was hired to work with Rick and Gordon to spark controversy so Gordon could sell more books. And if it became a mega hit, everyone would be paid handsomely. While they are talking, Mildred's lawyer also pays a visit. It turns out that the little apple farm she referenced earlier, the one she inherited from her late uncle, was turned into a huge shopping complex now worth $5 million. Mildred is also told that her sister and her aunt actually perished when Irene was just 9 years old, solidifying the fact that this woman was an actress. And now I would like to take a moment to shine a spotlight on Floyd, Metzger's gold-hearted but somewhat dim-witted deputy who can put on a northeastern accent like no one else. Sheriff!
Sheriff, excuse me, there's some kind of ceremony going on behind the Finney place. Sheriff, what are we looking for? The witch? Miss Howard's dead, Sheriff. Murder? Yep. Miss Fletcher? Yeah, hang on. It's Sheriff Metzger calling from Cabot Cove. Sheriff!
Jess figures out that the barn was sold to Rick, and she knows he's the one who set it on fire. Rick admits that Irene was actually Annie Gorman, an actress he would do favors for. She was supposed to set the barn on fire herself, but felt guilty for tricking Mildred, so she pulled out at the last minute. He insists that he did not kill her. Metzger brightens up with another smug grin.
You hear that, Mrs. F?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking
About how many innocent people you try to arrest. It's time for some good old-fashioned Jessica-style snooping. She returns to the crime scene and finds new paint.
So that's what happened.
Oh yeah, that totally clears everything up. On top of the murder, we also have this blatant fashion crime. Leather on tweed? Time to set up a sting. Jess invites Mildred and her fiancé Adam over, and during conversation, she tells him that Sheriff Metzger is going to go back to the barn because he may have overlooked evidence that might link back to Gordon Fairchild. It works. Thinking that he left something behind, the killer returns to the scene of the crime. Yes, it's Adam, the guy who was in the episode for like 2 seconds. It turns out that Adam ran into Mildred's lawyer while doing repairs at her place, and he told him that the Apple Orchard estate was worth far more now that it was turned into a business. He proposed to Mildred, hoping to make the big bucks. What a fucking dickneck. He assumed that Annie really was Irene and came back to claim her part of the insurance money and killed her. What a fucking psychopath! Was $2.5 million not enough for you, sir?
But all my life, I never had much money.
Oh, boo-hoo. After he murdered Irene, someone started knocking on the door, so he temporarily hid her body under some paint-splattered tarp. After that, Rick bursts in looking for Annie. Adam then overhears him call Gordon and talk about their little publicity stunt. He decided to put her in the barn because he knew Rick would torch it. It was a pretty smart plan, but luckily Jess knows what jet lag is, and that solves the whole thing. I mean, it was obvious. You guys figured it out, right?
Because she had jet lag?
Jess's neck is still hurting, but Seth tells her not to bother coming in because she's related to an old generation of people with similar neck problems.
And medical science is ill-equipped to deal with a 300-year-old pain in the neck.
Hazlitt out. Okay, final thoughts. This has always been one of my favorite episodes, and I've rewatched it more than many others from the show despite the extremely vague solution to the mystery. That's just something I've come to expect from Murder, She Wrote. Sometimes the conclusion is easy to get to, and sometimes Jess finds a paperclip on the ground and is like, aha, it was Mr. Smith all along, and we're all like, what the fuck? And that is honestly the fun of cozy style murder mysteries. And I don't want to sit here and say that the design of the murder and its solution isn't important. I do think it should at least make sense, even on a rudimentary level, but in cozies, the real emphasis is on the characters, making this episode pretty successful. We definitely get a real sense of who these characters are, their scummy nature, and how they fit in the little town of Cabot Cove. I also like that the episode almost has a moral? Sort of? I think it makes a small attempt at portraying mob mentality as it is trying to retell the story of witch burning and how it can cause mass hysteria, and perhaps we shouldn't crucify people simply for living a different lifestyle than us. But of course, any moral gets overridden by the show's campy nature and silly tone. And that's okay, this is quintessential Murder, She Wrote viewing. Especially enjoyable are Angela Lansbury's facial expressions. I just love it when she's clearly had enough of these herbs. Metzger is also especially fun in this episode, as he is his usual cranky and often incompetent self. Although I still stand by the fact that he's way better at his job than Sheriff Tupper, whose main goal in life was to eat pie. Not necessarily a bad goal, but not helpful for catching murderers. Roddy McDowall was also a delight to watch, even though he mainly just mugged for the camera the entire time. Perfect eyebrow formation, no notes. So that was Fire Burn Cauldron Bubble. Give it a watch if this video intrigued you, and if you have a suggestion you'd like to see me cover, please leave me a comment. Until next time, happy sleuthing. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching this witchy episode of That Time on Murder, She Wrote. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more from me, I have a bajillion things to show you, but first I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons, for if not for them, I wouldn't have been able to treat my cat to some salmon for Thanksgiving. If you want to support us and the show, please consider a small donation, and if not, likes and shares certainly help out. If you want to see more from me, I have a few recommendations on the screen. On the right, I have a snarky breakdown on Sleepwalkers, a bonkers movie written by Stephen King, and on the left I have the very last episode of That Time on Murder, She Wrote. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.